After we get all of our axles polished, Micah, what's next?
We trim the wheels.
Well, we got to true up the wheels. So the wheels that come in your BSA kits are molded plastic. There's a mold that they shoot these out. I'm guessing it's an injection mold. And they're usually pretty inconsistent. All your wheels are going to weigh different. They're going to be different shapes depending on which mold they came out of or how they cooled. And so what we want to do is make sure that the outside edge of our wheel is true and square and round as it lines up with the inside of our hub. And to do that, we use this little tool. This is one of the more expensive tools that we own. I think it was about $80 or $85. This came from one of the, I think it was Maximum Velocity. It came from one of the Derby supply houses. And this is a wheel shaver. And so it has two purposes or two functions. One is it lets you cone or sand down the back hub of the wheel. And since we typically have ours riding out on the head of the nail, that doesn't usually apply for us. And then the second thing that it lets us do is shave the wheels to true them up. So Micah, go ahead and show them how we do that. So the wheel is going to go onto the mandrel in the middle there. And the wheel shaver uses this blade, and it's a really fine tipped blade, and it's connected back to this crank here. So once you get your wheel on, what you want to do is slowly turn that down just until it barely touches your wheel. Crank it a little more. Okay, starting to catch a little bit there. And you'll notice when you start doing this, because this is a really precision instrument, like right here, I'm not touching the wheel at all. Like this will bounce back and forth. It's not touching at all. And if I rotate it just a little bit, right there, now I'm scratching the wheel. So that shows you just how far out of true this wheel is straight out of the kit. So when you get it to where it's just starting to touch, the first thing we're going to do is, if you look at the back of this, there's 3 points on it. So that gives us 6 positions that we can kind of go from. So for a first pass, I want to turn it just about that much. You can really do pretty fine-tune adjustments. We can always come back and we can take more off. So we crank that down, and now we got to spin the wheel. We want to spin it against that blade. Now you may not see big shavings come off. In fact, you probably shouldn't see big shavings come off. If you got big pieces coming, you either got a really bad wheel and you might just want to toss it and get a different one, or you're pushing on it, and that's going to keep it out of square. So when you can spin it freely all the way around, you've shaved enough off of it. Then we want to come back and we'll rotate this end again about a sixth of the way around. Just tighten it down a little bit more and spin it. And so we're going to keep doing that until we get a wheel that's completely trued up. So this is a wheel that is done, and you can see kind of that finished edge on there. Now you see the parts that are still shiny, like right at the back of the wheel, right in there where it's still shiny. That's from the original casting, so that's where the wheel was. And then all the areas are dull are where it was out around. That's the part that we've shaved off. And it might be easier to see on some of these. Yeah, this one's really bad. So all the shiny there, that's the original mold of the wheel. And all the dulled parts on the edges of that are the areas that we shaved off with the wheel shaver, the wheel mill. So when we get these all done, we get them all trued up, then we're going to work on balancing them and pairing them to an axle. You done?
Yep.
You sure?
Yeah.
Getting anything off of that one? What's the edge look like? Are we even all the way around?
Yep.
Okay, kind of see a little streak right there. That looks pretty good, Micah man. So this wheel that we have, I found one in our batch. This one's really bad. You can see how many shavings are coming off of this. And there's still areas of the wheel that are shiny. So this one in particular was just really out of whack. And it doesn't matter. This mill usually does a pretty good job of truing up even some really awful wheels. So this is our last one for our good set of 4 here. But I think I've mentioned this on some of my other videos, but because the wheels are so inconsistent and because they're not terribly expensive, we usually order quite a few extras. So we'll start with enough wheels usually to do 2 or maybe even 3 cars. And you can buy extra wheels at the Scout store. You can get, I think I got these sets at Hobby Lobby. So they say Pinewood Pro, but if you open these up, they actually say BSA official Pinewood Derby. They're the same mold, they come from the same factory, they just go through different suppliers. So we've got our good set of 4 here. After we get the outside of the wheel all trued up and smooth and perfectly round to the center hub, the next thing we want to do is true up the back side of the wheel. And this mill allows us to do that too. So what I've done is I've loosened these screws. The tool comes with a little Allen wrench. So I loosened these screws and I've adjusted where this center mandrel sets. You know, before we held the wheel over this flat part of the cutting blade here. Now we're actually going to use the side of the cutting blade. So you don't want to take off very much. You can see the way I've got this lined up. It's just kind of right to that mold line on the back of the wheel. And you're pretty much going to do it the exact same way. So Micah's going to show you how to shave the back side of the wheels. Let's go ahead and crank that blade up till it's touching the wheel. It's got to go quite a ways. Crank it up. Turn, turn, turn. Okay, are we past the edge of the wheel now? Yep. Okay. So now you're just going to spin it. No, you're going to have to push down. Make sure you're going the right direction against the blade. There you go. No. We need to adjust it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you just got to crank that blade up a little bit further. We're starting to touch. Let me see. Okay. So you'll see as the blade comes up, it has a little bit of a groove or kind of an edge in there. That is to mill the back profile of that wheel. So as I get it closer, you can see how that lines up. So you can see there's just little teeny shavings coming off. Again, we're not trying to really modify the wheel. We're not trying to make it a different shape. We just want to true it up. The nice thing about this is once you get one done, it should be the same position, the same setting, and you can jump right to your next one. Now, if you do that, both when you're milling the outside rounds and when you're truing up the back of these, what you'll end up with is a matched set of wheels that are the same size, the same diameter, have all the same characteristics. And that's what we're looking at for a good set of rear wheels for our car. The next step that we typically do in going through milling our wheels is, I bought this and I think it was fairly inexpensive. It's a little mandrel that allows you to chuck up your wheels into a cordless drill. So the screw goes down through the axle hole in the middle, and it's slightly smaller so it's not going to mess up the inside of your wheel.
The balls?
Yeah, go ahead. So I feed that down, and all I really do is just finger tighten this. I don't want to really screw it hard because that's going to squeeze and compress, and that could deform the wheel or mess up that center hub. So you want to be really careful. So now that we're done milling these, I want to talk about a couple things. One, you'll notice, see these little dots at the edge of the wheel? They're still there. That means that we haven't removed any material from the wheel. Most derby requirements, most race rules, don't want you removing a bunch of material from the wheels. So one of the typical requirements is that these dots are still visible. The second is on the inside of the wheel, the back here, you can see the lettering is still there. So we haven't removed any material from the inside of the wheel. We haven't shaved the back side to try to lighten it. It's still a stock wheel. The only modifications that we've made to this so far are just to true it up to make sure it's perfectly round. So after all of our shaving, you can see that the outside edge of the wheel is a little streaky. It's got some areas that still have the shine from the original mold, and then the areas that we've milled down. So what I like to use is some extra fine steel wool. So Micah, you ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. Here's your steel wool.
And what do we do? Here.
Yep, we're just gonna hold it right on the edge. Now again, we're not trying to sand the wheel, we're really just at this point trying to polish it. Just make it smooth and consistent all the way across. All right, so that gets rid of kind of most of the roughness, gets us pretty smooth and round. Another little trick that you can use is you can take these little plastic shavings. Micah, go ahead and turn the drill. You can use those little plastic shavings against the outside, and that will also help polish that plastic and make it shiny again. Like that. All right. So are we done?
Nope.
Nope. What do we have left?
More wheels.
Huh?
We have more wheels.
Well, I know, but on this wheel, what do we have left?
Graphite.
No, not till we put it on the car.
Ooh, yeah, paint marker.
Paint markers, okay. So on a couple of the cars that we've done, we like to paint the wire wheels that are in the middle. And I've done that with an airbrush, I've done that with a couple different methods, but the one that seems to work the best, looks the best, and is just easier than hell to do is using a silver Sharpie. All right, we're getting ready to add the color to the center hub here. That's it. Looks pretty good. Is that hard? We spend a ton of time on that?
No.
No, but it looks like $1,000,000, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.